One of these things is not like the other. And no, it's not triple digit BMI ratings, because there is just one heifer back there. But obviously, you guys have probably seen this photo. Probably seen it alluded to out there, but Stacey Abrams required children to cover their faces so she could go maskless for a photo op. I don't know the origin behind this photo, but I seen it over the weekend, and fuck man, was it hilarious, because of course, it's always what they do. They preach masks, they preach mandates, it doesn't matter who specifically, but if they got a D at the end of their name, or an L up in Canada, or a fucking D in their A, it really doesn't much matter. This is the shit that they do in practice. In public, oh, it's all of the good stuff. Oh, we're just trying to keep you safe. And then they go and they act it out on your children, and everybody's just supposed to go along with it. Really? Huh? Cool. Definitely not like it's having market effects, but more on that in a moment. Georgia Democrat Stacey Abrams, okay, who recently appeared maskless amongst dozens of masked up children during a visit to a Georgia elementary school to learn how to read, did so on the condition that everyone around her wore face covering, including children, her campaign said. Oh, okay, so this isn't like a secondhand report. No, she specifically wanted the photo op of her. Are these people retarded? Like, did she go to this school to read to them and talk with like-minded individuals on a short bus? Like, why did you ever think this was a good idea? What? It boggles the fucking mind. Over the weekend, a photo surfaced during showing the Georgia gubernatorial candidate. Oh my god, that's the only race that she's ever run in her entire life, and it's going to end with a similar catastrophic finish. Smiling gleefully around dozens of children at Glenwood Elementary School in Decatur. She visited the school for an African-American read-in event for Black History Month. Cool. What were the books you were going to read? Daddy Went Out for Cigarettes and Never Came Back? Why Are My Brothers in Jail? You know, some of the classics. Yet Abrams joined the ranks of several of her left-wing colleagues in defying the same rules she purportedly supports, appearing maskless, while others, in this case elementary school children, were forced to mask up. Yeah, Eric Garcetti, Patrick Bateman, they were all down there at the LA Rams game from a couple of weeks ago. They weren't wearing masks while everybody else was, because of course it all fucking makes sense, right? So it's funny, right? We're starting to see these fights around the world taking place. Mostly the epicenter is Ottawa, Ontario, which is just weird to ever think of. I know I've talked about it ad nauseum throughout just about every video, but it still boggles the mind that Canada's leading the freedom charge on this. But here we are, and even Democrat states slowly but surely are starting to recognize, or at least publicly, I'm sure that they've probably known this for a while, but masking kids in school might not be the best practice, or really, proving to be that fruitful, especially in New Jersey and Delaware. Oh, that must really specifically hurt old Uncle Joe, who still wants you to wear your mask, I don't know, everywhere. Probably going around to see some of his constituents in a few cemeteries and just putting masks on them as well, because they need to stay safe for the upcoming elections in November. But school mask mandates in New Jersey and Delaware will be lifted next month. The governors in both states said on February 7th. That will be today. The New Jersey mandate will be lifted on March 7th. Governor Phil Murphy said in a statement, balancing public health with getting back to some semblance of normalcy is not easy, but we can responsibly take the step due to declining COVID numbers and the growth in vaccinations. Yeah, just don't mind the fact that we've known the numbers and the risk to school-age children for a very long time, but now, all of a sudden, numbers are declining and nobody's talking about a new scary variant that's out there. So now, yeah, we're just going to try to have to shift public policy a little bit, because my experts are going to be out here, not siding with any of those evil racist truckers or anything like that, because they're still very evil, very racist, and very awful. But the public pressure that's out there, that is not forming our opinions. We're listening to the science trademark that's out here, and that's how we're making our decisions, obviously. Like many states, New Jersey saw an explosion of COVID cases in late 2021, but the numbers have since dropped precipitously from its peak of 33,459 on January 7th to just 1,600 on February 6th. Yep, big scary. Hospitalizations attributed to the coof have largely gone down recently in a majority of states. Yeah, pretty much all of them. I'm just going to throw that out there. Number of people vaccinated, meanwhile, has continued to grow. Yeah, because eventually, if you just keep a running tally, more days go on, more vaccines available, more people get poked. Imagine that. It's not like you can take it back. Vaccine offered reduced protection against Omicron variant, apparently, which causes the coof, but boosters restore much of the protection for a period of time. How long? Don't really know, nor do I really care. This is all about affecting kids, really. Because mask mandates, have they worked? Don't know. Got theories, things you can't explain or things you can't express on YouTube because it's a very fun, very open, very honest platform. But what are we starting to find out now? What sort of detrimental effects are happening to your kids school age because they've been wearing masks for the better part of 2 fucking years at this point? All to keep them safe, but definitely not, taking into account the entire holistic approach to growing up as a kid. Landmark study says children do find it more difficult than adults to recognize people wearing masks, and it could affect their ability to make friends. Yep, you're fucking up kids on multiple levels all over this neurotic fear of what exactly? I don't know. Parents and medical experts are demanding that U.S. schools stop forcing children to wear ineffective face masks as coof positivity rates continue to plummet, and studies have shown mask mandates are detrimental to psychosocial health and academic success. No shit. No fucking shit. Everybody could have told you that. Now you're starting to come around to this. Maybe. York University in the UK published a new study showing masks make it difficult for children to recognize faces and in turn could affect their ability to socialize and make friends, a fear that is echoed by parents worldwide. Imagine that. You hide people's faces, whether they're sick or not, just for sheer compliance means. Just think of it this way, okay? How much differently would you view a female titty if they were just out at all times? Think of it that way. That's the type of psychology that's being implanted in kids' minds with the lower half of most people's faces. That's what they see every fucking day, okay? 8 hours a day. I see them when I wake up and go for a run first thing in the morning. Kids by themselves, and it makes me physically ill and shake my head every time that I see it. Walking alone on an icy path because snow removal in this city is fucking atrocious. Another story for another day. Just walking alone on a street. Okay, some days it's snowing and some days it's not, some days it's cold, some days it isn't, and they're just walking with their mask. Nobody within, I don't know, 100 fucking yards of them. But no, they're all masked up, walking from their house, walking to school, and I'm just running by them and just wondering what the fuck is going to be going on in the next 10, 15, 20 years of these neurologically stunted kids. The studies come as both New Jersey and Delaware announced the scrapping of statewide mask mandates in schools. However, the White House press secretary Jen Psaki on Monday, when data showed COVID case numbers had again dropped 33% nationwide week on week. Like we seen from the reports in South Africa, this was what was going to happen. Reiterated, the CDC is still recommending universal masking in school, and it still remains our recommendation. And if you try to tell anybody out there that just feel free, just go ahead and take that on yourself. You can do whatever the fuck you want. You'll have these Karens who are out there who are still months, years, or maybe they're not even behind on the science. Maybe they just don't care. They just like telling people what they need to do. They're suing the school boards to enforce masks because reasons? Always been up to school districts. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's up to these Karens who keep fucking forcing these lawsuits that are going through the courts that may or may not, kind of on a roll of a dice. They're about, 60% at this point of getting their injunction because forcing kids to wear masks is effective. Sure it is. It's always been our point of view, and it will always be our policy from here. Sure. Parents, including those who have previously towed the line on masking their children at school, are increasingly voicing their concerns about the detrimental impact the masks will have on their children, and experts are joining the chorus. There's a lot to unpack in that paragraph right there, and I have multiple times, and I have even in this video as well, but let's just get to the study because I've done a lot of talking today. The U.S. has been accused of clinging to restrictions put in place at the height of the pandemic, while other countries scale back mandates on masks, vaccine passports to reflect the dropping infection rate. Now, many parents are rallying their districts and demanding school leaders to follow the science. No, you're just forgetting something. Follow the science. Trademark. There's oh no, two kids. One kid has his mask around his chin, and another kid has, I think, a balaclava around his neck, and that makes me incredibly sad because none of those kids are much older than 10. Even if they are, I'm not a very good judge of children, okay? It's because I'm not a creep, and I don't have kids, okay? Because that's one caveat, pretty big caveat. They also fear the longer-term consequences of prolonged mask mandates on their children, who say that they are taking longer to learn and are struggling to develop empathy because they can't see their peers' facial expressions. It's almost like a way of instituting autism on kids. Tom Hadzin, some Greek, the father of a teenage boy in Long Island, told the Daily Mail on Monday that he feels that the mandates are less about safety of school children, but instead seem to be the administrators' exercise of power just to exercise it. Yep. Like the way that they would safeguard using bathrooms during class for seemingly ridiculous reasons, okay? Nope, you can't go because I said so. Nope, you go because you go too much. Can't breathe, too bad, because if you breathe, then everybody in the classroom's going to die. York University researchers studied the psychological impact on students, revealing that face masks make it 20% more difficult for children to recognize faces compared to just 15% of adults. This could impair, strange way of spelling impair, but all right, children's ability to navigate through social interactions with their peers and teachers, and this could lead to issues forming important relationships, said Dr. Ezra's Freud, who led the study. Given the importance of faces to social interaction, this is something we need to pay attention to. All previous research has found that mask wearing can hinder facial recognition in adults. This is the first time it has been studied in children, which is probably something we should have been doing for a while, but I'm glad we're here finally. Freud said faces are among the most important visual stimuli. Now tell us about your mother. Oh, sorry, wrong Freud. We use facial information to determine different attributes about a person, including their gender, age, mood, and intentions. Well, you should say sex, you weirdo. Gender is made up. We use this information to navigate through social interactions. The team recruited 72 children aged 6 to 14, not a big study, but enough. A couple of classes, who were presented with images of faces with or without masks, upright and inverted. The result that children had about a 20% impairment rate for the recognizing masked faces. For comparison, previous research had shown that adults have about a 15% impairment rate. Were they drunk? Did that add to their impairment rate? Don't know. Meanwhile, the results also showed that the children process faces differently when looked at a masked and unmasked face. Usually, humans process faces as a whole rather than by their individual features, known as holistic processing, the entirety of a subject. That's what holistic means. It's not one of those goofy hippie catch-all terms. It's just been adopted by them, but it's different. However, the researchers found that when children looked at masked faces, they become more analytical, focusing on individual features. It's literally autism. Not only do masks hinder the ability of children to recognize faces, but they also disrupt the typical holistic way the faces are processed. Thanks for repeating that. I appreciate that. The researchers hope their findings will encourage future research into the effects of the face masks on the children's ability to recognize faces and make friends. And we're not going to know the totality of what happened there for years to come. Honestly, there's another study going around, and we're definitely going to be talking about that sometime this week, about the effects of lockdowns. But I found this one to be just a little bit more time sensitive, because still we can go back and we can talk about that lockdown one, because nobody else is, at least in the mainstream media sense, still haven't. We're just days after it was published by a very reputable source. Nobody's talking about it, and I'm sure this one's just going to get swept under the rug as well, even as more states, okay, and as you know, Delaware and New Jersey, not exactly the same places like Missouri or Kansas to drop in school mask mandates. So it's becoming an increasingly untenable position to hold, that we need to tell people to live their lives as according to just old fucking ancient science from years ago at this point. It's time to fucking move on, and it's time to stop hurting the children, because somebody needs to think about them. Not like Democrats do, okay? I don't need to put them at risk. But with that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.